Well, hello, sports fans. This is Larry Eater, your favorite broadcasting athletics chat number 47. And you see the good-looking man in the middle of the screen. That's Stuart Ware. He's in the intellectual capital, the golf capital, the vetting capital, and now in England they have open bars. But he's in Oxford, and that's the best of England. I'm in Sausalito today, near the wine capital of California, which is Napa, but we're close, and we're outside at a Starbucks. So enjoy the globalness of everything. Stuart, great to see you.
Hi, yeah.
So you were sharing beforehand that it's a momentous day in England.
Yeah, well, the first time this year, the bars are now open. You can only eat and drink outside. So, of course, our weather celebrated that by having snow in Oxford.
Wow, that's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, my golf club sent me an email timed at 6:17 to say, there's snow all over the ground. Golf course closed.
Wow. Is this a rather unusual, because that sounds like Wisconsin weather, for you to have a bit of snow
unusual.
at this time? Okay.
It's unusual. Here it had all melted by lunchtime, and so people were able to have their lunch outside. So it was all right. And the golf course opened in the afternoon.
Good. Now, and then your dear Prime Minister, is he starting to open up the country a bit?
Yes, he's got what he called a roadmap.
Okay.
And in the middle of May, then we will be able to go into restaurants and so on, if things go as they are. And then travel will become possible from June.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we can only leave the UK for essential travel.
Okay. And condolences on the death of Prince Philip. I found him fascinating, and I knew about his involvement in the sport, the equestrian sports. But also, I just found an article with some of his jokes, which reminded me of some of the things my father would say. But there's, I guess, an 8-day mourning in England. Is that going to affect sporting events?
Well, the funeral is on Saturday, and sporting events are moving to earlier or later in the day, so that they're not actually happening at 3 p.m. The best tribute I saw to him was a cartoon, which was two politicians, and one said, I've been asked to speak at his funeral and to say something inappropriate.
Yes, there was, the Guardian put up a note about 90 inappropriate things that Prince Philip has said. So I'm going to find a pint, and I'm going to read that in his honor, because, if you're 99 years old and you don't have a list of at least 99 inappropriate things you've said or done in your life, I'm not sure it's a life well lived, So
absolutely. The great thing was, despite being in this position of being the Queen's husband and the Queen's consort, if he didn't like something, he just said it.
Yeah.
And good on him.
Yeah. No, that was kind of that's what it sounded like, and I was just kind of curious. We've got some interesting topics today, and on your list, you started with Miramar, and I'm going to let you begin that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there just seem to be some phenomenally good times and performances. I had a rather fun exchange with I was going to call them the Ophelia sisters, but of course neither of them is now Ophelia.
Yeah.
Because Cindy Sember ran 12:55 and Tiffany 12:57. While it was wind assisted, you could equally say that having a wind can upset a hurdler's rhythm. So there were pretty good times. And I was teasing Tiffany but letting younger sister beat her again, and having a laugh with Cindy about perhaps she she should let Tiffany win next time. But seriously though, given the horrendous injury that Cindy got in 2017, it's just brilliant because I personally wondered if she'd ever get back to those speeds. I know she's been a guest on your program. And I mean, Tiffany really had a disappointing 2016, 2017, 2018, then she had a baby. And it's just great to see her getting a medal at the European indoors and running that kind of time. So, yeah, great for them. What else struck me? Well, Shamir Little and Quinera Hayes, both going under 50 seconds. Kendall Ellis, almost. I wrote a couple of pieces on Javian Oliver.
Yes.
Who ran a PR of 11:05. And I mean, I did talk to her about why she's always so phenomenally good indoor and never quite takes it outdoor. And her answer was very simple, because I always seem to get injured in the outdoor season.
Yeah.
And so if she can stay fit, I would be really interested to see what she can do. Not to mention Sha'Carri Richardson with that amazing
phenomenal
1072.
Yeah. No, I thought that well, Tony Campbell is the imprimatur, the man who put on the meet. He's with TC Management, and I've known him for almost 40 years. The first meet I met him at was when he did the Runner's World Indoor back in 1981, 82. And what he told me before this meet is he wanted to give American fans a taste of what a small European meet was like when he takes his guys from Budapest, which he dearly loves, the meet that Martin July puts on, to some of the small meets in Switzerland where he traipses around with Robert Wagner at various meets. And I think they did it. I mean, Grant Holloway's 13:04 wind dated was, and apparently I stirred up a bit of controversy because I was putting these things up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I put world leader by Grant and by Kenny Harrison's 12:38, and they would have been, but they were wind assisted, and I got a gentle admonishment from Alphonse Uke and a stronger admonishment from Rich Perlman, but the Grant Holloway one, we got 10,000 retweets, so people apparently like Grant, and we put up some nice pictures on the meet, but I thought all in all, I mean, Aji Wilson, a nice duel in the 800 meters. Matthew Centrowitz ran 150. And while that the 827 long jump by the young man who took gold at Doha in 2019 in the long jump, 827 was pretty impressive, and I thought that
I think there were 5 of them who went over 8 meters.
So just it so I think Tony should be very happy with his first meet.
The other thing that we have to recognize that not only are these early season times, but Wendenell in South Africa ran a 56 for the 400 hurdles. And that was the first time she had run a hurdles since August 2019.
Wow.
And so some people are coming back having missed virtually the entire season. Because if you do if your event is something like a hurdles, and you just cannot practice the hurdles, you can't say, well, I just run up and down the road. So there's a lot of athletes who really have not had much competition in the last year. So some of these are phenomenal times for that.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is a lot of athletes who are very, very strong, but are short on the racing. And hopefully, as the pandemic seems to be kind of changing a little bit with everybody getting vaccinated, that we're going to be able to see some positives. So nice. Go ahead.
Just to spell that out, what you're saying is there have been some athletes who, rather than doing a winter training, then a competition block, and then a winter training, have actually done continuous training throughout last year. And so, provided they stayed fit and healthy, they've probably got an awful lot of training in their legs to come out, and all they need is just a tweak in the competition and the race practice.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. What's interesting is that we're seeing this in the U.S., we're seeing it in some places in Europe, we're seeing it obviously in South Africa, although South Africa just said that South African athletes who are based in outside of Africa do not need to compete in their championships this year because of the concern on the pandemic. But what you're seeing is some just, there's about, I know of about 25 meets between now and the U.S. Olympic trials that'll be held in North America for, and even, Jesse Williams, the man who put on the Sound Running events, is doing his first, as he calls it, track and field meet. He's got field events, not just middle distance events, sprints, jumps, throws on May 14th. And it's great to see that. I love his enthusiasm. So, but yeah, Miramar, Tony Campbell and his crew should be very proud. USATF was involved. World Athletics was involved. The city of Miramar actually owns the track and sports complex. And they gave 600 tickets out to young kids to see the meet. Plus, I think they had about 1,000 fans in the stadium. So I think that's kind of cool. So, we'll do a little more coverage of that one. Our next topic is an athlete you and I both know, Charlotte Purdue, and her appeal. So tell me what's going on there.
Well, the British marathon trials, the rules were that the first two to finish who had the qualifying standard would be in the Olympic team, plus one more at the discretion of the selectors. Well, of course, only Steph Davis, who was first, had the qualifying. So therefore, there were two places which were effectively between three athletes who had the qualifying. And the selectors chose Jess Biasaki and Steph Twell, and did not choose Charlotte Purdue. Now, Charlotte has a PR of 2 hours 25:38, which is faster than Steph Twell's. So also, Charlotte, like the other two, was injured, but she had actually been advised, she says, by a British athletics doctor not to run the trial. But then she was told that she had not been selected on medical grounds. And she said that she had informed someone in British athletics that the previous week she had run 83 miles and she was running 75 minutes and that everything was going well. And she is claiming that that information must not have been given to the selection committee. And this is the second time in the last month that there's been an allegation of information not being given to the selection meeting. So it's, I think Charlotte's been very gracious about it, because she said, look, I'm not trying to take someone else's place, but I just think that I've been unfairly treated because I was advised not to run the trials. I was in touch with the doctor. I had informed them that since that I had actually got to the stage where I could run for over an hour. I'd run 83 miles in the week. And yet they say, oh, well, we've not selected you on medical grounds.
Wow.
So there's going to be an appeal, and I don't quite know how this one's going to run, because unless there's a way that the IOC will allow Britain to have an extra marathon runner, it's still going to be 2 from 3.
Yeah.
It's we always say that the US selection policy is brutal You know, if you have a cold in the day of the trials, that's your problem. But the disadvantage of our system is that you can have appeals and counter appeals.
Yeah. No, it's
And you know, somebody is making a decision of those three runners, Piasecki, 12, Purdue, which two is more likely to do well in Tokyo, and it's not an exact science. It's a matter of opinion.
Yeah. No, it's got to be tough. So
But it's an unfortunate situation. It's a horrible situation.
Yeah. Well, we will have to stay tuned on that one. Talk to me about Oslo Diamond League moving.
Well, I don't know how people know this, but I had actually thought that might be the first one I would go to, and now they've called it off. Basically, the Oslo Diamond League, which was scheduled for the 10th of June, has been postponed until later in the year, is the official phrase. They haven't set a date, and it's a government decision, not a business decision. So basically, the government has said the state of COVID in the country is such that we're not having any international events. And the Bislett people have said, just to clarify, we will not be attempting to do an Impossible Games type scenario like last year. So basically, they are hoping to do the games. I would think it would have to be after the Olympics because they won't get a slot before that. So they're hoping to do it late August, September. But again, it just shows what a difficult year this is. Will that be the only Diamond League which isn't taking place this year? I don't think I'd put money on that.
Yeah, no, I'm curious too to see, because we're seeing different strains come out. There's a slowdown in testing in California right now, and I'm suspecting slowdowns in some of the other parts of the country in Europe as well. So we're just going to have to stay around and see. I know right now Doha is on, Rome seems to be on, but Italy's has a complete lockdown. And, you know, I got the question from some media friends 2 weeks ago, hey, what Diamond League meets are going to be affected by the European lockdown? So we're going to have to see what's going on there.
Well, I mean, I would have thought there must be a question about Rome, because you know, they're having another wave.
Yeah. Excuse me. I share with you that that Rome could be an issue. I think you may be seeing meets in the U.S. where it seems that in some areas that things are much better under control. California seems to be doing well, although they're still telling everybody to wear their mask and stuff. So,
I mean, this week we have got the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the European Soccer Clubs competition. And Chelsea from England are playing Porto from Portugal. You play home and away, but both those games are taking place in Spain because travel between England and Portugal is not allowed at the moment. So they're having to play, each of them going to Spain to pretend one is at home and to pretend the other is at home. And you know, in the previous round, we had games which were supposed to be in Germany being played in Hungary because of travel restrictions. So, you know, the travel restrictions in Europe can change very quickly. And I mean, like, the good news is that as from the 17th of June, people in the UK may go on vacation, but we don't yet know to which countries, because the government has yet to specify which countries you can go to without having to quarantine when you come back. So it's a very fluid situation, and I would be amazed if every Diamond League in Europe takes place this year.
Yeah, I think you're going to be prophetic Sure. We've got a fun one to talk about now. Caster Semenya. She ran a 16. Was it 16:10, 16:11?
16:14.
14. And so now she has got to run 15:10. And I prognosticated that I thought she could do it. What do you think?
Well, of course, let's remind people of the background to this.
Sure.
Because of the World Athletics case against her in the ruling that because of her levels of testosterone, she is not allowed to run the 800 or the 1500. And so therefore she's now looking at doing the 5,000. I mean, I am very clear on this. I've written for you on this, that I think this is a wrong decision by the authorities, because you're talking about someone running with the body with which they were born. It's not a transgender issue. This is somebody who is running as born. And it's also interesting that testosterone helps you to run the 800 and the 1500, helps a woman to run the 800 and the 1500, but we don't worry about men having different levels of testosterone, and it doesn't seem to matter for throwers. I just think it's a very unconvincing case, but so far they've won their court battles. I think that Caster is a phenomenal athlete, and okay, she's a bit dominant, but wasn't there somebody called Usain Bolt who used to win all the races?
Yeah.
I just think that sometimes happens. Christian Taylor hasn't lost many triple jumps. Should we find something wrong with him so he can't stop him competing? But it'd be interesting to see whether Caster can get herself into a position to be competitive. Can you imagine what kind of speed Caster could produce on the final lap if she got into a position where she was sitting on Hassan and Dababa's shoulder with a lap to go? Yeah. That would be a race to see.
No, I think we followed her since 2009. Yeah, and I remember being in the Berlin Stadium, and when she got her medal, by that time the story had gotten out, and she was booed. And I was told later that she really didn't understand everything. Yeah. And the truth was, the World Athletics, or then the IAAF, kind of they made some errors in judgment. And
it was very badly judged.
At the very least, the term that I hate to talk about is that she should be grandfathered into this, because she's probably got 2 or 3 more years to compete. But what you and I know is that through the entire situation, with people calling her names on both sides, and she has been a model of decorum, and she has been very thoughtful. And I remember watching her talk with some of her competitive athletes after races, and just the way she is. I think she's tremendous.
I have actually talked to her about that, and I just said to her, you always seem to be so gracious. And she said, well, I was brought up to respect people. If they don't respect me, that's their problem.
Yeah, no, I
take my standards from the Bible, and I treat people the way they ought to be treated. If they want to treat me differently, that's their problem.
Yeah,
what a lovely attitude.
Yeah, no, I think it is a tremendous attitude. I also think that it looked to me like, as she gets a little more in shape in a few more races, I think that she could, if she can get down, and like you said, especially if it's a tactical race, my gosh, Dababa and Hassan would be insane to let her be within 50 meters of them with a lap to go. But boy, would that be a fun race to watch,
Absolutely.
And so it'll be interesting to see how our viewers think about it. I'd love to see some of their comments. So please, dear viewers, if you have thoughts or comments, send us a note at runblogrun@gmail.com. And then our lovely final subject of the afternoon, evening, your time, is the Olympic update. Where do you stand with that, kind sir?
Well, let's just run through what's happened since we've
Sure.
recently. First of all, we know there's going to be no foreign spectators.
Yes.
We know that VIP guests who are entitled to come will still be allowed to come, but alone. They will not be able to bring a spouse or a guest.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's been an announcement that I think particularly in America, if you have bought tickets or a hospitality package, you will get a refund, but only at 75%.
Yes, I found that really interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that could be a substantial loss.
Yes. I mean, it's think about in the U.S., the company that is ticketing for the Olympics is charging a 20% fee that they're keeping on all tickets. And how does cost change with $1,000 ticket as opposed to an $80 ticket? I don't know. Is it shinier paper or something? So that's kind of an interesting dilemma. The other thing is, as you and I have talked about, is we're still trying to figure out how they're going to deal with media. I just got a note from the USOPC about what accommodations I was taking. And I told them I was still looking around because I thought their stuff was wildly expensive. And so I'm, I'm kind of curious. And then the other thing that's most interesting is that, as we both have been told, if we're on the theoretical plane to Japan and someone gets sick, we're going to be at our own expense sitting in quarantine for 14 days, not going to any of those events. And we both know that. So say we go down a few days before the Tokyo Olympics begins. Track and field begins, I believe, 7 or 8 days and lasts for the last 9 days. So it's kind of, we could end up sitting in a hotel and watching the meet from there. And what's the difference in you watching it off BBC and me watching it off European broadcasting and going somewhere? So I think that what we've got a real challenge ahead, and they're making it. It's one thing to tell the foreign fans not coming, according to Japanese media, will cost the LOC somewhere around $23 billion, not million, $billion. And I guess that's ticket sales, but also food, souvenirs, hotel, all those things. Well, if the Olympics cost you around $20 billion and you were looking at this as part of your profit loss statement, you're no longer going to be able to brag about a $3 billion savings. And originally, I think the Olympics was 14 and the additionals the extra year. So how are they dealing with that? The Japanese Olympics will lose its shirt, and already we're talking about issues like, in the U.S., there's some wackadoodles who want to boycott 2022. I thought they would have learned from 1980 and how little that affected anything, because it did nothing. I mean, I respect President Carter for making the tough decision, but I'm not sure it was the right decision. And so what we've got now is, we're getting into that same kind of thing. And, we just saw, I think yesterday, Australia pulled out of the World Relays in Silesia. coming up beginning of May. And I'm wondering how many other countries are going to be doing that because of what we're doing, because the pandemic's going back and forth,
But actually, there's been some other developments this week in Tokyo. Well, first of all, one of the test events, the swimming, has now been cancelled because the International Federation, FINA, basically says we're not satisfied with your COVID safe precautions.
Wow.
So that's been cancelled. And then in the city of Tokyo itself, as from today, there are special measures coming in, and all restaurants must close by 8 p.m. Large sporting events are limited to 5,000 people, and businesses must close early as well, and this is for the next month. So clearly the authorities are worried about the state of COVID. And an intriguing one, I actually hear an article from the newspaper which says North Korea have pulled out of the Olympics because they don't think it's going to be safe. And the headline in the London Times is, don't say this out loud, but might North Korea be the voice of reason?
Yeah, I mean, that's where, my thoughts are right now is someone who is in a high-risk group or two. Why am I going to endanger my life if I have to hold off to Paris being the 10th Olympics that I have covered and the 9th that I have visited? Then you know what? I think I can deal with it. I kind of like Paris. Actually, I love Paris. And, so it's just, we're living in a strange times. We're having to make some interesting decisions. You and I covered the European indoor. I thought quite well. We got fantastic numbers in terms of viewers. We were able to put up some great stuff. European Broadcasting did a lovely job of working with us. Several of the meets this winter. I mean, the New Balance indoor, we had the virtual mix zone. We love that, and I love that at the EAA meet, the EA meet too. And my guess is we're going to have many of those things in Tokyo. So I'm trying to decide. Okay, average cost for a media person to go to the Olympics from the U.S. is about $15,000. That's a lot of money. And how effective am I going to be? And that's some of the decisions, that one of the decisions that has to be made. And while I'm trying to hold it off as long as I can, I've got to make that decision sooner than later. And it's a little scary, so we're just going to have to, and like you said, we're dealing with, in the U.S., they still can't tell me if they're going to allow fans at the NCAA championships in early June or at the U.S. Olympic trials later in June for 9 days. I've heard things as strange as, well, one day they're going to allow in 50, and then by the end we hope to be able to allow the new Hayward Field that everybody's drooling about to be halfway full, which would mean about 9,000 people. So you're in my thought process that 2022 is probably before we start feeling whole again. I think we're looking pretty prescient right now.
Well, next Saturday in 5 days' time, we have the semi-finals, or the Final Four, as you Americans like to call it, of the Football Association Cup. And they're going to allow 3,000 spectators in a stadium that holds 90,000. This is the first experiment to see how that goes, and they've got then various other things, test events. But you see, the concern that the authorities, the government here have, is not so much spectators in the stadium, but how they get there. You know, are you going to have 5,000, 10,000 people crowding onto trains, crowding onto buses? And then that will be the dangerous thing. I mean, you can easily put a lot more than 3,000 in a 90,000 stadium and space them out. But you know, this is a moment where they're doing this as a test event, and then hopefully there'll be later. And the Premier League soccer has actually extended their season so that they will actually their final group of games will be in a time when more spectators are allowed. But how many, for example, spectators will be allowed at the London Diamond League? I don't know. I wouldn't have thought it'd be more than half, perhaps a quarter. Who knows?
Yeah. Now I think we're getting to the place right now where we have to stay flexible. I congratulate the authorities for being as transparent as they can. They don't want to get people to panic. And there's concerns everywhere. You know, like you said, Italy, France, and Germany are having some challenges again.
Yeah.
I read a fascinating piece in the New Yorker last week about Sweden, and although that they've had to change some of their very open policy, they're still dealing with some issues. Norway pretty well has shut, is in a lockdown again. Finland is considering one. Denmark is considering one. And now we're talking about vaccine passports, which I am pretty sure that we will need to have before I can come join you at a meet in merry old England, you know. So, but we have survived 48 minutes, dear friend, in episode 47. So I'm glad your snow has melted. I wish you a good golf match coming up, a nice pint of beer, and stay safe, my friend. Okay?
Good. Okay.
All right. This is Larry Eater with RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat number 47. And thanks to Mike Deering for producing. Thanks to Stuart Weir in the intellectual capital of the world, Oxford, England. And I'm near the wine capital of California in Sausalito, California. And have a great day. Stay safe. If you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love us, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat episode 47. This is the epilogue where I talk to myself. And you know the drill. Stuart Weir, Oxford, England, intellectual capital of the world. Larry Eater, somewhere in the United States, Sausalito, California, outside of Starbucks, near the wine capital of California. And we try to solve the athletic problems of the world. So today, here's what we took on. First of all, the Miramar Invitational in the city of Miramar, Florida, last weekend, Saturday, had some explosive sprints and some amazing events. So 1072 by Cherie Richardson, 997 by Kyrie King, and Justin Gatlin was at the age of 39. He ran a 998, so pretty impressive there. 1304 by Grant Holloway when dated, and a 1238 by our friend Kenny Harrison when dated in the 110-meter hurdles for men and the 100-meter hurdles for women. Amazingly screaming women's 400, 49.91 by Shamir Little and a 49.92 by Kinera Hayes. Again, just the beginning of just really wonderful afternoon of track and field. What Tony Campbell promised was a taste of European small meets that he goes to all during the summers. And he did a great salute to them in the city of Miramar. The city of Miramar should be congratulated. World Athletics should be congratulated. USATF and Nike should be congratulated on a great meet. We'll be doing a lot of coverage of that this week. Charlotte Purdue's appeal. Charlotte Purdue is a 2:25 marathoner. She had a faster PB than two of the women who were selected for the British team for the Tokyo Olympics. And she's appealing it based on, she thinks that the appeals board wasn't given information about her fitness. She ran 83 miles last week, including a 75-minute effort, which shows a pretty high level of fitness, and wondering what's really going on. So the thing that Stewart said is, which is the truth, unless the IOC gives another fourth person opening on the British team, there's really no way for this thing to really work out. So it's most unfortunate. Oslo Diamond League has been moved from June 10th to sometime later in the year. What does that mean? And that's a good question. What it means is that the pandemic is not over, and that we're probably not going to be fully here until 2022, 2023, and that this is going to be a challenge week by week, day by day, and people need to stay safe. I have had the one shot, and I sat around in my house for 15 days before I came up to California. I'm still wearing a mask everywhere that I'm supposed to. I wash my hands. I try to stay safe because I don't want to get anybody else sick. And I ask fellow humans to do the same thing. Caster Semenya ran a 16:14 for 5,000 meters. Not a big time, but what it tells you is she's got 64 seconds to take off to make 15:10, the Olympic qualifier. Can she do it? I think if she gets 5 or 6 5,000 meter races in, and she does some longer stuff like 800s and 1000s, she's more than capable. What do I think about that? Well, since World Athletics and CAS is going to totally jerk her around again about competing at 400 and 800 and 1500, because apparently testosterone helps at that level, but not at the 1500 and 5000, which totally befuddles me. The caster is should have been grandfathered into whatever new rules were. One of the finest athletes in women's sport of all times. Is there some questions about where she should be placed? Yes, but it's not through any fault of hers, where we've dealt with athletes who've taken everything but, janitor in the drum to perform better. And we, give them 2, 4, 8 years, and then they come back. So, yeah, I think it's kind of absolute crap. But, I will hold my feelings until let's see if Caster can get herself into shape. And if she does get into shape, I would a gentle nudge to Safan Hassan and to Kanziba Dababa that, please don't be within 50. If they hope to win, being within 50 meters of her with a lap to go, oh boy, that would be exciting. Anyway, let's see what Caster can do. I think she can run 12 and a half and break 15 minutes, but we shall see. Olympic update. Who knows? It changes every day. There's no fans coming from outside Japan, which means, oops, $23 billion in the tank there. The Tokyo Olympics is going to lose its shirt. Will it be an economic disaster for the country of Japan? Yeah. They're not going to allow a lot of Japanese fans either. So say they make back $1 billion. Oh, so they only lose, $7 billion. But hey, what's that between friends? In Japan, they can't deal with that the way they do in Russia or in China. So they actually have to talk about it and figure a way to write it. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And the Friends, Olympic Friends, not sure what that means, but that's going to save the IOC some money. The challenge is going to be, there's going to be limitations on media. There's going to be some limitations on staffs, coaching staffs, and things like that. And if anybody's on the plane with you and they get sick, and there's 453 people on an average plane from San Francisco to Tokyo, so you got 453 chances of someone getting sick, and then you sitting in quarantine and watching the Olympics from your very own hotel room in Japan on Nippon TV, which will be wonderful coverage, but it'll be in Japanese, and you won't be able to go into the stadium. So, yeah, think about that one too. So it's going to be a little strange. Stewart said something quite prescient where he said that he believes there'll be some of the other Diamond League meets that maybe move back. And a couple friends said that to me about a month ago. So hats off to a couple of my anonymous sources who said, with Italy closing down, with Germany closing down, with some of the other countries closing down, we will have issues. So we are going to have issues, and we've got to keep a clear head, stay focused, stay safe, take care of our fellow human beings, be patient with people, and get out and exercise every day, hydrate, eat well, share the things you have with people less fortunate, and wear that damn mask, okay? And wash your hands. Yeah, here's my mask, just so you know, right here. See it? And I wear it proudly. So send me pictures of you in your mask in strange areas. I'm inside at Starbucks right now, you know, and I'll find something goofy to send you guys, okay? Anyway, if you have any questions for us, email me at runblogrun@gmail.com. Send me pictures at runblogrun@gmail.com. If you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, please. We like to see our numbers grow. That's how that whole economic thing works. And then if you love us, subscribe on YouTube. Last year, Mike Deering produced over 369 videos for RunBlogRun. So he had to deal with me a bit. And since 2010, my dear brother and I have done over close to 2,500 different audios and videos with our friends at the Shoe Addicts and with athletes and coaches all around the world. There's surely something that you will enjoy. But if you like RunBlogRun and like what we stand for, which is giving you information on the sport we love, then subscribe, okay? Stay safe. Thanks, Mike, for keeping this going and shutting down from Sausalito, California today. This is Athletics Chat Epilogue for Chat 47. Talk to you soon.